Welcome to the deep dive. We're here to really get under the surface of stories, find those nuggets of insight that stick with you.
Exactly. And today, we're tackling something pretty chilling. We're looking at justice, but not the kind you find in a courtroom.
No, this is justice served or maybe executed deep inside the walls of a maximum security prison. It's a concept that's both fascinating and, frankly, disturbing.
It really
But
is.
the evidence was a slow,
Our source for this
tightening
deep dive,
noose.
it's called the
A partial
Inmate's
fingerprint,
Ledger, the
fibers from
killing
his
of
hoodie,
Josephina
and a
Cunningham's killer.
He works for us.
And it's this incredibly compelling
He had a
narrative
court-appointed lawyer
that
who
takes
argued
you
for
right
diminished
into
capacity.
that world.
Right
But
into
Crowe's
the
demeanor
darkest
betrayed
corners,
the
really.
defense.
It forces you to
The
think about what
verdict came
happens
after
when
only 2
the
hours of
normal
deliberation.
ways society
Guilty
deals
on
with
all
horrible
counts.
crimes just don't feel like
The
enough.
courtroom erupted.
Or when they're perceived not to be enough.
There is a
Exactly.
darkness in you,
So our
Mr.
mission
Crowe,
today
that
really
this
is to follow
court,
this thread
and
from the
indeed this
absolute
society,
horror of a
has no
child's life
remedy
being
for.
stolen,
It is the
right through to this act of brutal retribution behind bars.
We'll be digging into themes like vengeance, these hidden moral codes that exist in places like prisons, and just the sheer complexity of what justice even means sometimes.
It's a journey, for sure, from innocence lost to this final balancing act in a place governed by its own rules.
The intake process
It
was
really
a
makes you question
humiliating
everything you
ritual of
thought you knew about
dehumanization.
justice.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's start where it all began. The crime itself. Our source introduces us to Detective Frank Miller. 22 years on the job, seen it all, you know.
Or thought he had.
Right.
He was assigned
But
a cell
stepping
on the
into
bottom
this small
tier.
apartment one
His cellmate
August
was a wiry man with a
afternoon,
face like a
it
dried-up
wasn't
riverbed.
the
and
noise,
a
the panic, the mother's grief, terrible as that was. It was the silence.
Yeah, the source describes it as this malevolent stillness. A quiet so profound it felt like it had just sucked everything else out of the room. Haunting.
That's the word. And the details they paint, it's almost unbearable. Sensory overload,
The
but in the
unwritten
worst
laws
way.
of
absolutely.
Blackgate were far
The air
more
itself
binding than
heavy
any
with the
state
smell
or
of blood,
federal
that coppery
statutes.
tang, but
They were
mixed with
complex.
strawberry
At the
shampoo,
absolute
with child
bottom.
shampoo.
Ugh, that juxtaposition is just horrifying. Innocence and violence literally in the air you breathe.
He tried to
there's
get
the
moved to
half-eaten
protective
bowl of
custody,
cereal on
the
the table.
PC wing, where the
Cartoon
snitches
animals
and the
on the
weakest
spoon,
inmates were
still grinning.
housed. But
Life
PC
just
was its own kind of hell.
And the sneakers. Little light-up sneakers by the door, one still blinking red, just blinking away in the dim light, totally oblivious.
It's those mundane things, isn't it? They become these grotesque symbols against the backdrop of what happened in the back bedroom. 3-year-old Josephina Cunningham. Gone.
It just hits you, those small details. It makes the violation feel so much more absolute. For Miller, this wasn't just another case.
No. The source says he felt it was like a violation of nature itself, something fundamental torn apart, a child's innocence shattered so completely.
He felt powerless, apparently. Just watching the forensics team work, it wasn't just a crime scene, it was like a wound in the world.
And that feeling, that sense of profound violation, it lit a fire under the investigation. The source calls it a brutal, soul-crushing sprint.
Understandable. The whole community was reeling, grief and rage everywhere. Huge pressure on the police. Josephina's face was on flyers, on the news.
A constant reminder. But for Miller, the source says, it became personal. It was those blinking red sneakers. That image just wouldn't leave him.
That became his drive. Beyond the job, beyond the pressure, he had to find who did this.
And the break came from something almost random, really. Grainy security footage from a neighbor's camera.
Yeah, showing a guy unassuming with a slight limp leaving the building around the right time. Not a resident.
So they started canvassing, showing this blurry picture door to door, block by block. Tedious work.
But it paid off. Eventually someone recognized him, gave them a name. Ethan Crowe.
And here's where it gets, well, kind of disturbing in a different way. The suspect. Miller was expecting a monster, right?
You would, wouldn't you, for a crime like this?
But Ethan Crowe, he was 24, lived in his mom's basement, had a minor record, petty theft, voyeurism. That was it.
Miller's description is chilling. Thin, greasy hair, shifty eyes, just pathetic. Not the fanged beast he'd imagine.
And that's the terrifying realization Miller had, the one the source really drives home. Monsters didn't always have fangs. Sometimes they looked just like us.
That banality of evil idea, it's almost scarier, isn't it, that someone so ordinary could do something so profoundly monstrous.
It really challenges how we think about evil.
Right.
We want it to look different, to be separate from us. But sometimes it's just emptiness hiding in plain sight.
And that emptiness, that pathetic quality carried right into the interrogation room. Crowe's initial attitude, the source calls it a masterclass in smug denial.
Yeah, slouching, picking at his hoodie,
Hmm.
sighing at every question like he was bored, put upon.
He even had an alibi, didn't he? His mother backed him up. Poor woman, probably desperate not to believe it.
He genuinely seemed to think he was smarter than the cops, that he could just talk his way out of it.
But the evidence, it started to close in, slowly but surely.
Right, the source describes it like a tightening noose. First, a partial fingerprint on the bedroom doorframe, matched Crowe.
Then fibers from his hoodie found near Josephina's body, getting harder to explain away.
And the final nail, his laptop. The search history, disturbing, doesn't even begin to cover it. Left no doubt about his mindset, his intentions.
That's what finally broke him, the tech evidence.
Apparently so, the DNA evidence specifically. But when his facade cracked, it wasn't remorse that came out.
No, what then?
Anger, according to the source. Chilling, petulant anger, like a kid caught with his hand in the cookie jar, furious he got caught.
Not guilt, not horror at what he'd done.
Not a shred of it. He muttered something like, "She should have been crying. I told her to be quiet. She just wouldn't be quiet."
Oh my God, just the casual cruelty of that. Annoyed by a terrified child's crying.
That's when Miller knew. He described it as looking into a void. No soul behind those eyes, no empathy, just a hollowed-out void filled with pathetic, selfish needs.
The silence in that apartment, bought by his irritation, it's sickening.
And that emptiness, that total lack of empathy, it's crucial. It explains so much about what happens later. This wasn't someone you could reason with or who might feel remorse down the line.
No chance of rehabilitation there.
None. Just nothingness. And that sets the stage for why the regular justice system, even at its most severe, might feel incomplete to some.
Which brings us to the trial. And yeah, as you'd expect, total media circus. Josephina became this national symbol of lost innocence.
Everyone was watching, demanding justice.
But amidst all that noise, Josephina's mother, Melissa Cunningham, she was just this pillar of quiet grief, sat there every day watching Crowe but never breaking down in public.
The source describes her presence as an unwavering testament to her loss. Just incredible dignity in the face of unimaginable pain. Her silence spoke volumes.
Meanwhile, Crowe, he seemed to be almost enjoying the attention. His lawyer argued diminished capacity, but Crowe's whole demeanor undermined it.
How so?
He apparently looked at the jury like they were idiots, too simple to understand him, treated the whole thing like a game, like he was the star of the show.
And the source mentioned something truly chilling. A look he gave Melissa Cunningham.
Yeah. A flicker of pride. Pride. As if he thought, I'm somebody now, because he'd broken all these hearts. It's just profoundly warped.
Unbelievable. The verdict, though, was quick.
Yeah.
Guilty on all counts. Took the jury only 2 hours.
When it was read, Melissa finally let go, just silent sobs, this release of tension.
But the judge's words, they really stick with you. Delivered, apparently, with a face like carved granite.
Yeah, he looked straight at Crowe and said, and this is a direct quote from the source, "There is a darkness in you, Mr. Crowe, that this court, and indeed this society, has no remedy for."
Wow. No remedy for. That's a powerful admission from a judge.
It really is. He went on, "It is the sentence of this court that you be incarcerated for the rest of your natural life without the possibility of parole. You will draw your last breath in a cage. May God have mercy on your soul, for the state of this Commonwealth has none."
Chilling. It basically acknowledges the limits of the law, doesn't it? It can lock him away, protect society physically, but it can't fix the darkness, can't truly balance the scales on a moral level.
Exactly. It almost sets the stage for something else, some other kind of reckoning.
And Crowe's reaction to this life sentence?
A smirk. As they led him away, he smirked. He actually thought he'd won. Gotten away with it, in a sense. Kept his life.
He had no clue, did he? No idea that the courtroom judgment was just the preliminary hearing.
Not a clue. The real tribunal of his sins, as the source puts it, was waiting for him in a place with its own set of rules. And that place was Blackgate Penitentiary, maximum security, the end of the line.
The journey there, described in the source, is interesting because Crowe wasn't really scared yet. More annoyed, like it's just an inconvenience. Still had that arrogance.
Still thought he could play the system, find a quiet corner.
Yeah. But Blackgate, it's depicted as something else entirely. A name whispered in the underworld. A concrete and steel tomb.
Like a fortress rising out of nowhere. And the sound of those gates slamming shut behind the bus, described as absolute finality.
Sets the tone, doesn't it? This isn't just prison, it's a world unto itself, a point of no return.
And the intake process, brutal. Stripped, searched, hosed down with cold water.
Standard procedure, but designed to dehumanize. And then the key part, issued a number, 734.
His name, Ethan Crowe, the one that had been all over the news, suddenly meant nothing. He was just 734, identity stripped away.
It's about breaking you down, preparing you for the reality inside, where the old rules don't apply.
And inside, the inmate grapevine. How fast did word travel?
Instantly. As he was walked down C Block, this eerie hush fell. Hundreds of eyes watching, assessing.
They knew who he was, what he'd done. The arrival of a Chester inmate slang for a child molester travels like wildfire.
It's not just gossip. It's the prison's immune system identifying a threat. Or maybe a target. He was marked from the moment he stepped inside.
And that's when the fear finally started to hit him. That smugness started to crack.
Oh yeah. He tried to act bored, indifferent, but that cold knot started twisting in his gut. He realized this wasn't county lockup.
This was the jungle. And he was, as the source says, the weakest prey. His courtroom victory suddenly felt very, very hollow.
His first real taste of that came in the mess hall. The silence itself was described as oppressive, like a physical weight.
And then the confrontation. 3 big inmates approaching him. One with boxer's nose, a predatory look.
Called him the baby killer. No immediate violence, the source says, but the message was crystal clear.
You're marked. You're meat.
Exactly. He couldn't eat, looked around desperately for anyone, any potential ally, but just saw contempt everywhere. Total isolation.
But in that same mess hall scene, the source introduces someone very different, sitting alone in a corner.
Right. Marcus. Old man Cole.
Yeah.
Older guy, 60, maybe 70. Gray hair, beard. Not physically imposing.
But he had this aura. An air of deep, settled calm that seemed totally out of place in Blackgate.
And the other inmates. They gave him space. Not out of fear, it seems, but respect. Deference.
And his eyes. The description is key. Pale, washed-out blue. Not angry, not threatening.
No, like an accountant, a record keeper.
Yeah.
Watching Crowe like he was entering a new line item into a very old, very meticulous ledger.
Wow. That's some serious foreshadowing right there. Crowe had no idea, but he'd just met his.
Judge, jury, and executioner. Yeah. It suggests this justice system within the prison isn't just random violence. It's something older, more calculated. And Marcus is its keeper. The ledger isn't just a metaphor. It's real in his mind.
So let's talk about those unwritten laws of Blackgate. The source makes it clear they're way more powerful than any state laws.
Absolutely. A brutal constitution passed down through generations of inmates. It dictates everything.
And the hierarchy is key. You've got the gangs at the top, Aryan Brotherhood, Mexican Mafia, Black Guerrilla Family. They run things.
Right. Then soldiers, independents, but at the very bottom. Lower than snitches, lower than guys who owe debts.
The Chesters, child molesters, untouchables, pariahs. A stain on the prison's ecosystem, as the source puts it.
And the reason for that, absolute bottom-tier status.
It's fascinating, isn't it? Even hardened criminals, guys who've killed, robbed, they have this one taboo. You don't harm children.
It's like a line they won't cross. Those who do are seen as a different species, deserving only pain and eradication. A twisted kind of morality, but it's powerful in there.
And Crowe found this out firsthand, didn't he? His first week sounds like hell.
A living nightmare, according to the source. Not just big beatdowns, but constant psychological torture.
Food spat in, bunk messed with, whispers, threats.
Being tripped, shoved, low-level, constant harassment designed to break his spirit. Always on edge.
And he tried to fight back once. Over something small.
Yeah, commissary soap. Someone stole it, he took a swing, and bam! Swarmed by 4 guys.
But they didn't just beat him up.
No, this was different. More methodical. They held him down, and the first guy calmly, deliberately broke 2 of his fingers. Snapped them.
While the guards just watched.
Impassively. The source says it wasn't seen as a fight, but as the jungle culling its own. A lesson delivered in bone-breaking clarity. His place was cemented.
And that broke him. The intellectual superiority, the smugness.
Completely gone. Replaced by a terrified, skittering animal. He barely left his cell, lost weight, jumped at every noise.
Living in constant terror. The same terror he inflicted on Josephina. The irony.
Lost on him, though. He was just consumed by fear and self-pity. But it shows how effective Blackgate's justice system can be in its own savage way.
He even tried for protective custody, PC.
Pathetically, yeah. But he had nothing to trade. No information. He was worthless to the guards. Just a ghost, totally isolated. And all this time, Marcus Cole is watching. With quiet, detached patience.
Tell us more about Marcus. 32 years inside.
Yeah. Went in young and hot-headed, but Blackgate forged him into something else. He wasn't a gang. His currency was knowledge and respect.
And he ran the library.
This sanctuary. Knew every book. But more importantly, he knew the men. Their histories, their debts, their sins. He kept this mental ledger.
Like the prison's living memory.
Wow. And he lived by a strict code. Do your time, don't lie, don't steal from other inmates, and absolutely under no circumstances harm the innocent.
He believed in a different kind of justice inside Blackgate.
A higher, purer form, he thought. For some crimes, he felt a life sentence wasn't punishment, it was a reprieve. This philosophy is key to understanding him.
So what made Crowe different from other Chesters in Marcus's eyes? He'd seen them come and go, presumably.
He'd read about Josephina, seen her picture, but it was the smirk. That photo of Crowe smirking as he left the courtroom.
That sealed it for Marcus.
That's what the source suggests. He saw it as a declaration of victory, a final insult to the child he'd murdered. It was an entry in his ledger that couldn't be balanced by just making Crowe miserable.
It wasn't just the crime, it was the total lack of repentance, the pride.
Exactly. That, for Marcus, created a debt that went beyond the usual prison torment. It required something more.
Yeah.
Final. He started watching Crowe differently then, methodically, planning.
Calculating, not emotional.
Cold, clear purpose. Even when he saw Crowe terrified and broken, he felt nothing but the need to balance the account.
And then there was that interaction with the younger inmate, Leo, about the Aryan Brotherhood bounty on Crowe.
Right. Leo was excited, $1,000 commissary for whoever got Crowe.
Yeah.
But Marcus, he just called it messy.
Messy? What did he mean?
He told Leo, justice should not be messy. It should be precise. Leo didn't get it, said there's no justice in prison, just survival.
But Marcus disagreed.
Calmly gluing a book, he said, that's where you're wrong, son. There is more justice in this place than in any courtroom. You just have to know how to read the ledger.
Wow, so this wasn't about gangs or money for him.
No, this was about Josephina. The strawberry shampoo, the blinking sneakers, a debt owed to her ghost, not to the inmates. And Marcus felt he was the only one who could truly balance that account, a personal, almost sacred duty.
Okay, so the plan forms. Marcus needs two things for this precise justice: opportunity and an untraceable weapon.
Right. Opportunity was tough because Crowe was basically hiding in his cell, terrified. The weapon needed to be something that couldn't be linked back.
How did he manage the weapon part?
He leveraged his good standing, years of trust, to get assigned to the metal shop. He worked quietly, but he was watching. Learning the routines, the blind spots, the way things really worked.
And he found something.
Yeah, a discarded high-tension spring from an old machine. Hardened steel about 6 inches long. Just scrap metal to anyone else.
But to Marcus.
The raw material of justice. Perfect. He pocketed it discreetly.
And then worked on it in his cell.
For 2 nights, under his blanket, used concrete and grit to sharpen one end. The source says he wasn't just sharpening metal, he was honing a purpose. Thinking of Josephina with each stroke. Forging a consequence.
Creating this thin, flexible, razor-sharp shiv, untraceable. It wasn't impulse, it was craftsmanship.
Absolutely deliberate, almost ritualistic. It shows his commitment, his understanding of the prison system, and his cold, calculated intent. This needed to be final, and it needed to be clean within the prison's code.
And the opportunity, how did that arise?
Chaos, as it often does in prison. A riot broke out between the Mexican mafia and the Black Guerrilla family over a gambling debt.
Full lockdown.
For 3 days. Tension sky high. Then, on the 4th day, they started easing restrictions, but everything was still off-kilter. Guards stressed, routines disrupted.
And that created an opening.
A critical breach of protocol, the source called it. They brought the protective custody inmates, including a very pale Ethan Crowe, to the main library for book exchange.
While the general population was still milling around. That sounds dangerous.
Extremely rare. A mistake born from the chaos. But for Marcus, it was the exact moment he'd been waiting for, his window.
So the scene is set. Library, PC inmates shuffling past, general population nearby, guards distracted.
Marcus is at his desk stamping books, calm as ever. Crowe is in the PC line, jumpy, scared.
And Marcus makes his move.
First, a signal. He catches Leo's eye, the young inmate. A tiny, almost imperceptible nod.
And Leo creates the diversion.
Instantly. Shows another inmate, starts a loud argument about a stolen cigarette. Classic prison theater, perfectly timed.
Draws the guard's attention away from the PC line.
Exactly. And as they turn, Marcus rises, moves with this calm, unhurried grace. No one notices him, just the old librarian.
He walks towards the PC line, shiv hidden.
Steps right behind Ethan Crowe. A ghost.
The moment of truth. Does Crowe realize?
Yes. He senses something, turns, sees Marcus's pale blue eyes, recognition, and sudden dawning terror.
Does Marcus say anything?
Not a word. Silence. The ledger speaks for itself. He puts a firm hand on Crowe's shoulder, almost gently,
Deceptively calm.
and then drives the sharpened spring under the ribcage upward straight into the heart. A single, precise, and utterly silent motion.
No struggle. No sound.
Just a gasp from Crowe. Shock, betrayal in his eyes. Then he collapses.
And because of the diversion.
Nobody notices for about 10 seconds. Marcus has already turned, hidden the shiv, and is walking back to his desk.
Sits down, opens his ledger.
Picks up his stamper. By the time the guards react, the alarms start blaring. Marcus is calmly stamping a due date into Count of Monte Cristo, face serene, account balanced.
Wow. The image of him stamping the book amidst the chaos. That's something else. Finality achieved. So, the aftermath.
Immediate lockdown again, right? Prison becomes a sealed tomb.
Absolutely. And Warden Harris is furious. This happened in a guarded area. Bad press. Someone has to pay.
Swift, brutal investigation ensues.
But they hit a wall. The inmate codes see nothing, hear nothing, say nothing. Total impenetrable silence.
Even people who didn't like Marcus wouldn't talk.
Nope. Because in their world, he wasn't killer. He'd upheld the code, cleansed the block. He was a hero in a twisted way. He balanced a debt they all recognized needed paying.
And evidence.
None. Shiv flushed. Cameras obscured by the fight Leo started. Just as the source says, 100 silent men and 1 dead child killer. Dead end. But the ward knew, didn't he? Harris wasn't stupid. He knew. He could feel it in the way the inmates treated Marcus, the respect he commanded. He knew it was an execution, and he knew who did it. Which leads to that confrontation in the warden's office.
Right. Harris tries to corner Marcus logically. You're a reader, Cole. Cause and effect. Someone is the cause.
Trying to force an admission, how does Marcus respond?
Calmly. Softly. He says, sometimes an effect is its own cause. The man was a debt. The debt was paid. The ledger is balanced.
Wow. And Harris pushes back. My rules.
Yeah, tries to assert his authority, but Marcus just gives this faint, sad smile and delivers the killer line. With all due respect, Warden, you only work here. I live here. I know which rules are the ones that truly matter.
Checkmate. Declaring the unwritten law supreme.
Pretty much. Harris can't prove anything, so he does the only thing he can. Sentences Marcus to indefinite solitary confinement. The SHU.
The whole. A concrete box. Absolute silence.
And Marcus accepts it. With the same calm grace he accepted everything else. Pauses for a last look at the library, his sanctuary, then disappears into the deepest part of the prison. His mission complete.
Meanwhile, back in the outside world, Detective Miller gets the news. Just a standard email. Crowe is dead.
And his reaction. Closure. Victory.
Nothing. Just deep, bone-weary exhaustion. The legal system had done its job, convicted Crowe, sentenced him, but it didn't bring that emotional resolution.
He pulls up Josephina's picture
Found
again,
it?
right? Reflects on the different kinds of justice.
Exactly. The system gave her justice conviction, life sentence. Blackgate gave her something else. Vengeance. Retribution. A final, brutal balancing of the scales.
And he struggles with that.
Yeah.
Whether it was right.
Yeah. He sees the system allowed Crowe to live, to smirk. Blackgate's law was cruel, violent, but Miller felt, in its own savage way, it was maybe more just. It's a huge moral conflict for him.
It taps into that primal need for balance, doesn't it? When the official system feels inadequate, even for those who uphold it. It raises massive questions about accountability.
And the story ends quietly. Miller visits Melissa Cunningham.
She already knows.
Yeah.
And she's not relieved, is she?
No, just this deep, profound sadness. She says, it doesn't bring her back, does it? And Miller agrees. No, ma'am, it doesn't.
They sit in silence. The kids playing outside, a reminder of what's lost. Miller says the case is closed. For good.
But Melissa asks about the man in prison, the one responsible, sensing there's more to it.
And Miller's answer? It basically confirms the code. He says they'll never find him. In a place like that, some things, they just get balanced out. It's like he was never there.
Acknowledging the effectiveness, the finality of Marcus's act within that closed system, the debt erased from one ledger, even if the pain remains.
So Miller drives away, haunted by the silence of Josephina's apartment. But now, there's another silence.
Yeah, the silence of a debt paid, of a ledger balanced, of a final terrible justice delivered beyond the law. The silence of the inmate's ledger. A chilling end. So wrapping this up, this deep dive really throws that contrast into sharp relief, doesn't it? The formal legal system versus these raw, unwritten codes.
Absolutely. A court admitting it has no remedy, and a prison delivering its own brutal yet somehow balancing form of retribution.
It leaves you asking some really tough questions. What is justice, really, when you're faced with that kind of depravity? Is it only what the law dictates?
Or are there these other more primal forms of balancing the scales that fulfill some deeper need? Marcus Cole's story forces you to confront that uncomfortable possibility. Who gets to decide when an account is truly settled?
So the final thought to leave you with. In a world where our systems sometimes admit defeat, what's the real cost of seeking balance outside those laws? When does vengeance become its own kind of justice? Or maybe just another layer of silence, another entry in a very dark ledger?
Something to definitely ponder. A lot to think about there.
Indeed. Join us next time for another deep dive.